Hello and welcome to JRock's Pop Culture Revolution. This is episode number 16, and I thought today we'd be doing something a little different and fun. Um, Now, I love to look back on classic TV shows, and so what I thought we'd do tonight is look back at some of what I'm going to call my top five classic TV um, show episodes of all time, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, we're going to start at number five, and this is an episode of Family Ties. Family Ties. Now, we're going to talk about the final episode, and this was memorable for a lot of reasons. First of all, I was a big Family Ties fan back in the '80s when the show was originally on. I remember tuning in every week, and of course, like many people, my favorite character on that show was, of course, Alex P. Keaton, Michael J. Fox's character. Family Ties is where most of us first came to know Michael J. Fox, and he was quite young when the series started, but the series dates back to 1982, and what was fun about it, it was a great comedy, but the kind of the plot of the show was two kind of bleeding heart liberal parents, Stephen and Elise Keaton, that they're when they were very young, their heyday, the prime of their life, I guess, was the 1960s, where throughout the series, you'd see how they talk about how they used to protest in the 60s, and they were very political back in their day. Well, much to their surprise, they have well, when the show begins, they have Alex and Jennifer and Mallory. They have two daughters, and their eldest child is Alex P. Keaton, um, who is a young Republican. When the series starts in 1982, Alex is he's let it be known that he's very conservative. He's in high school in 1982 when the series starts, and he's one of these guys. Very, he's not your typical high school kid, and that's what made the character of Alex P. Keaton stand out. Plus, there's the fact that he's a young Republican, conservative. There were not too many of those being highlighted on TV, which made the character of Alex P. Keaton just really kind of stand out. I mean, when you consider the fact that the parents are these bleeding heart liberals, um, that's where the parents and Alex would clash, and they'd have way difference of opinions. But at the end of the day, the family would come together. Even though Alex had very different political views than his parents, at the end of each episode, we learn a lesson, and the family would come together, and it was nothing like the world today where people or families became divided over politics. So it was very different, Family Ties, when it came on the air in 1982. And so now let's get into talking about the final episode. Now, this is, again, number five on my list of most memorable TV episodes ever. And we'll get into why. Basically, why is this is a show I used to love to watch every week. And again, like a lot of my favorite TV sitcoms, the fact that it's centered around this family, that they had their differences, like any family, they'd argue, but at the end of the day, they love each other. And they all come together and support one another, even if they didn't always agree with one another. Um, and it's like many great sitcoms back in the day. Like I said, at the end of the 30-minute episode, we get some kind of lesson. Um, yeah, and again, after watching this show from 1982 to when it went off there, that's why when the final episode finally aired, it felt like saying good, like you're, even though it's just a TV show, it felt like it's saying goodbye to people that were part of my life. Again, these are just people on the TV screen, but I love tuning into the show every week. So it was a very hard thing watching that final episode, knowing that this is the last time I'm going to see this family. Of course, I still to this day catch it on antenna TV. I love taping and watching it in reruns. I've seen all these episodes hundreds and thousands of times. In fact, each time I watch a Family Ties episode, um, I know all the lines. I can say what the character is going to say before they even say it. I mean, so let's get into the final episode. Okay, now the specific episode that I'm talking about, it was called Alex Doesn't Live Here Anymore. The original air date was uh, May 14th, 1989. So again, this is a show that was a part of my life from 1982 to 1989. So just as the decade was starting, we get Family Ties in our life, and just as the '90s are kind of right around the corner, and so as the '80s are coming in, Family Ties comes to an end. It is a big part of my life now. In this final episode, it kind of does. What I loved about this final episode is we're all sad, by the fact that this is the final Family Ties episode. But let's be honest, it did. What I loved about this episode, did a great job of kind of tying everything up. Didn't leave us wondering. Some of our favorite TV series, from the '70s, even some of the from the '80s, some of them didn't get a proper farewell, proper final episode, but this one did. So it did a real great job of wrapping up the story. Okay, so let's talk about it. Okay, the episode centers around Alex P. Keaton, the eldest of the Keaton children, landing his dream job as a stockbroker on the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, okay, all throughout the series, Alex is a very political guy. He gets involved in all kinds of crazy antics, and escapades, but at the heart of it, he's a good guy. As the series ended, he had a job at the bank. In fact, Alex P. Keaton, all throughout the series, he was a character that was really about doing whatever he could to make a buck. I mean, Alex's main motivation in life and his dream was to one day be rich. He didn't really have a goal as far as a career, but he's like, I'm going to be rich one day. That was his ultimate goal. And by the time the series wraps up, he's going. He's leaving the family, and all throughout the episode, the parents are kind of the ones struggling about Alex is leaving. He's going all the way to New York. Family lived in Columbus, Ohio. So Columbus, Ohio, although it's part of the United States, is not that close to New York. So so there, Alex is moving far away. He's really as the show is ending, he's going to start the next part of his life, and the mother and father are kind of struggling. The mother, Elise Keaton, struggles throughout the entire episode, and at one point, Alex and his mom Elise, they really kind of go at one another, and Alex is like, "Hey, mom, what is wrong with you, mom? Dad's happy for me. My two sisters, Jennifer and Mallory, they're happy for me. My brother Andy, my little brother Andy, who I adore, they're all happy for me. Why are you not happy for me, mom?" And she kind of explains that, well, hey, Alex, you seem like you're so happy about moving away. It's not so much that he was happy, but he was happy that things were kind of, he's about ready to enter the next phase of his life. He's doing it all alone. He's going to be kind of living out the dream that his life. Alex is one of these guys. He went everywhere in a suit and tie, and he didn't really know how to let his hair down, so to speak. And so, this final episode, he's kind of life is kind of turning out as the way he always thought it would, but yet he's got some. As you can imagine, he's probably experiencing. He's got a little bit of nerves, leaving the safety of the family home. He's going miles away. He doesn't really know what life in New York is going to be like. I mean, this is his dream is about to come true. he's right at the cusp of making that dream come true. Seeing the dream of being a stockbroker come true. So again, he's about ready to kind of see his dream come true, but at the same time, he has that kind of hesitation, that thought that, okay, things are kind of, I'm about ready to live a dream. This is the way I always planned to live my life. But in the back of his mind, he's kind of thinking, what if it doesn't work out? What if? What if? But the episode ends. Alex says goodbye to the family. By then the end of the episode, him and mom have made up. They hug one another. Everybody says their goodbyes. A real fun part of the episode is before he leaves the house. Mallory and Alex, they have a little conversation. Mallory is Alex's sister, and so he's throughout the history of the show, he's always teasing Mallory about, but she's dumb and he's more intelligent, this and that. But Mallory, her dream is to become a fashion designer. She's currently going to college as this episode ends to be a fashion designer, and so she tells Alex, "Hey, before you go, I got a suggestion." She gives him a little handkerchief, and they talk about one day they're going to meet up again in New York, and she's going to be a fashion designer living in New York, and they're going to run into each other, and they're going to be talking about their lives, of how their lives turned out, and then a taxi driver was waiting to take Alex to the airport, comes in and says, "Hey, your cat, the meter's running. Whoever's going to the airport, the meter's running," and then he tells Alex, "Hey, a nice handkerchief, nice handkerchief." And so, by the time the episode wraps up, Alex P. Keaton, the star of the show, he's about ready to move to New York and live out his dreams. So again, I like the way that they wrap this series up with a nice little bow. The main star, the main character, Alex P. Keaton, he's going off to New York to live out his dream of being a New York stock broker. So the only thing is, with Family Ties, that was the final episode, like I said. Unfortunately, never got any kind of reunion or thing throughout the years. But, and then sadly, Michael J. Fox, as we all know, has been dealing with Parkinson's disease for several years now. And it got to a point where he's got his foundation, and they're doing all kinds of things to raise money for Parkinson's disease research and stuff. And so that's something that's the main thing he's involved with these days. Because of his Parkinson's disease, he kind of had to retire from acting. He's not able to act anymore. But he's still around. He's still fighting that. So we all will say a prayer for Michael J. Fox that his health is doing as good as it possibly can be doing. But yeah, Michael J. Fox, when I was growing up, man, he was one of my, I guess you could say, teen idols. I mean, I thought, man, that guy, he is funny. He's just such one cool cat. That was Alex P. Keaton. But so, okay, so for number 5, in my list here of top 5 classic TV sitcom episodes, number 5, the final episode of Family Ties. Okay, now for my number 4, I picked. Let's see. Okay, number 4. I picked. Now this is a great one. The show title was The Bully Show. It was an episode of Laverne and Shirley. Okay, and let me see here. The original air date was October 9th, 1979. And again, Laverne and Shirley, which was a spin-off show of Happy Days. This particular episode goes back to 1979. And there's so many reasons why this episode really stood out for me. I mean, I'm a big Laverne and Shirley fan, first of all. So there were so many Laverne and Shirley episodes I could have picked, but this one really stood out to me. And the main reason is this, because I love to watch, these classic TV sitcoms. I mean, this is something I did back in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, and I still love watching these shows where they come in reruns on like Antenna TV or TV Land um, or wherever. But the point is, I would tune into these shows back in the day. I still do because I love to laugh. I love to you could watch these 30-minute episodes and man, you just could I mean, I would be on the floor laughing and roaring, if you know what I mean. Just these shows were so much fun. But the reason this one stood out wasn't necessarily a real fun episode. It wasn't extremely funny. In fact, the reason this particular episode, Laverne and Shirley, um, really stood out is it didn't focus even so much on the main characters, Laverne and Shirley. It focused this particular episode focused mainly on kind of these two side characters, the neighbors, Lenny and Squiggy, played by, of course, Michael McKean, who many of us know also from portraying David St. Hubbins in Spinal Tap. And then his comedy partner, David L. Lander, played the part of Andrew Squigman. And of course, these were the lovable goofball neighbors known as Lenny and Squiggy. Fun couple of kind of fun loving, kind of idiot goofballs. Never really, they weren't bad guys. They were just kind of goofy and not all that not all that intelligent. And then you kind of wonder which one of them's higher on the intelligence level. But Lenny and Squiggy, main reason they're part of Laverne and Shirley were kind of so the girls had kind of sidekicks and and so they really brought something to the show. I'm talking about Michael McKean and David L. Lander who played Lenny and Squiggy. But let's get into this episode because again, it wasn't so memorable because it was that funny of an episode. In fact, many fans' reaction to this particular episode was that they thought it was really kind of dark, twisted comedy, and again, basically the main plot of this particular episode is the two guys, Lenny and Squiggy. They've known each other like since like at least high school, where they first met Laverne and Shirley, and they all hung out, and they've been best friends and stuff. They all work at the brewery, and so it's kind of a little group of people that hang out together, and they now live in the same apartment building. And so Lenny and Squiggy are like the best of friends. They're always joking and just doing goofball things, and most of the time, it brings the comedy factor to the show. But in this particular episode, the episode pretty much starts off with the guys just kind of for most of the episode they're arguing. They're kind of at a point in their life where like they're tired of living together. They're getting on each other's nerves. They're living in this little tiny apartment together, and they just for the first time ever start arguing, and just things are getting out of hand that at one point in the episode, Laverne and Shirley, they're fighting again. We got to go up and make sure everything's all right. And then everything seems to calm down, and Laverne and Shirley go back to their apartment. And then where things in the episode really get dark. And this, in the 1970s, you didn't typically see stuff like this on TV, but they didn't actually show it happen. But the gist of the episode was Squiggy, who is kind of a little kind of scrawny, bossy guy, is really getting verbally abusive towards Lenny, and they're going at it back and forth verbally with one another. And then Lenny, who is a tall guy who probably could really kick Squiggy's butt if he really wanted to. But the problem is, again, these guys are kind of best friends, and so they put up with a lot of each other's crap. And Lenny, at the end of the day, is kind of he's more of a good-hearted guy. He's more understanding. He probably puts up with a lot more than Squiggy, whereas Squiggy's a little more aggressive. Squiggy's a little. I'm just talking about his personality now. Squiggy's a little more bossy, and really Lenny puts up with a lot of Squiggy's shit, throughout the TV series. But in this particular episode, these guys are just going at it through the whole episode, and then at one point, Squiggy goes from being verbally aggressive to physically aggressive, where he gets so mad that he pushes his best friend Lenny out of their second story apartment window, and the shove is so hard in the fall that if I remember correctly, he landed in like a dumpster in the alley, as he threw him out the window, behind the apartment building. And at one point, Lenny's taken to the hospital, and didn't get too seriously injured, but he had to have a cast or something, where he was in a wheelchair for a little bit, and he was walking around like with crutches. And at that, and then at that point, Lenny comes home from the hospital. They have a party. Squiggy's there, of course, along with the rest of the gang, Laverne and Shirley, and Carmine, the big ragu, Mrs. Babish, the landlady, and Laverne's father, Frank. And again, this is the core group of people that are, from the Laverne and Shirley cast of characters. And the minute Lenny sees Squiggy, he just kind of snaps. He said, "What the hell? What the hell's he doing here? I don't want you here. Get the hell out of here." And again, Squiggy, kind of being the thoughtless person that he is, he can't believe Lenny's still mad. He can't believe that he has these feelings toward it. He can't believe that, wow, he didn't get over it. He's not as forgiving as he usually is. So for most of the episode, Squiggy has to find somewhere else to stay temporarily, and he's staying in his uncle's wax museum videos or something like that. And then eventually Laverne and Shirley end up helping the guys patch up their differences. Then the episode, they do their kind of classic routine that they're known for, stupid. And of course, again, just kind of talking about why it was so memorable. It's kind of, I guess, what you consider dark comedy. Laverne and Shirley was known for being a physical comedy, but and again, they didn't actually show him being shoved out the window, because I think that would have been too extreme. That would have been really too dark. But again, this is a show that premiered, 1979, like I said, and typically you tune into a sitcom to have a good laugh. And this was one most kind of realistic kind of thing. It really gave you something to think about, like, anger can make people do crazy things. Sometimes we do things that, as they say, in a fit of rage, people let their emotions get the best of them. They don't think, and you get yourself so angry, you go to that level, pushing somebody out a second story window. Man, that could go a number of ways. You could really hurt the person. You could even kill them. Luckily, it was a 30-minute sitcom, so again, it had a happy ending. So that's one reason I liked it. But again, it really gives us something to think about. And I think just the whole shock of the of the guy, pushing his best friend out the second story window. Wow, that's kind of extreme. I mean, I got mad at people, and I've like, but never to that level where I just, and so it was something very shocking. And I was reading that many fans had the same kind of response that I did, was saying that, that's a very dark episode. And so, okay, so that's my number 4. Now, let's get into let's see, my number 3. Okay, my number 3 is an episode of Happy Days. It comes from season 5. The show title is Richie Almost Dies. Now that's another one doesn't sound like it's too a very happy show, or a very happy episode. Again, these are episodes of some of my favorite classic 1970s and 80s sitcoms. Richie Almost Dies. Richie Cunningham, of course, I'm talking about. Mr. I found my thrill on Blueberry Hill. Yeah, played by Ron Howard, of course. Now, the original air date for this was, get this, January 31st, okay, 1978. Okay, now let's get into this. This Happy Days episode was one of the most memorable Happy Days episodes ever for the fact that the episode shifts from being a lighthearted teen antic, show to shifts to being a dramatic, heartfelt, emotionally charged episode that involved life and life and death. Changes. This is an episode where it really focused on how a person's life could change in just the blink of an eye. I mean, okay, let's get into this because the most memorable scene of this episode is when Fonzie is in Richie's hospital room, prays for his friend's recovery. Fonzie has a conversation even with God. Fonzie breaks down in tears, crying. Only time in the history of Happy Days where we ever see Fonzie actually break down crying in tears. Fonzie expresses to God just how much Richie means to him. Now, what am I talking about here? Okay, let's talk about Happy Days first of all. Great kind of family-oriented sitcom from the 1970s and 1980s. Supposed to take place in the 1950s Milwaukee. The show centers around the Cunningham family. And the Howard and Marion Cunningham and their eldest son Richie and Joni, of course. And then there's Arthur Fonzarelli, aka the Fonz, everybody's favorite Happy Days character. Let's be honest. The Fonz is the local hero to all the teenage kids. He's he's one of those guys that all the guys want to be the Fonz. All the chicks want to date the Fonz. And every man just doesn't want their daughter to date the Fonz, if you know what I mean. But at heart, the Fonz is really a great, super cool guy. One thing, of course, the Fonz was known for was riding his motorcycle, and I bring this all up because in this episode, Mr. Humdrum himself, Richie Cunningham, decides that he wants to, again, Richie, Mr. Humdrum, you just cannot picture him on a motorcycle. I can picture Richie Cunningham on a motorcycle about as much as I can picture myself. So there's that. But Mr. Humdrum, Richie Cunningham, he decides he wants to have his own, he purchased his own motorcycle. He has the Fonz go over with him to talk to his mom and dad about. Of course, mom and dad aren't too happy about Richie having his own motorcycle, but the Fonz convinces the Cunningham parents that, hey, and they know that Fonzie's an expert when it comes to motor. He said, hey, I've taken him around. I showed him how to use it, how to be safe with it. And again, Fonzie's doing this as Richie's friend. He has he has Richie's best interest at heart. He thinks he's being a good friend to Richie. And so at the beginning of the episode, Richie's telling everybody he's got a new motorcycle. He's bragging about it. He takes him and his girlfriend Lori Beth on a motorcycle ride, and then Lori Beth, one point, she comes running into Fonzie's garage, and Chachi's there, and she tells him, "We just got in a motorcycle accident. Richie, Richie crashed, and she's all right, but of course, Richie's the one that's in serious condition. He's taken to the hospital, and for most of the rest of the episode, the gang, Happy Days gang, all gets together at the Cunningham family house, and they're all praying for Richie, and they're just on pins and needles because they love Richie so much, and they're not. There's that fear that what if he doesn't make it, and so again, this is a very memorable episode because again, very much like the Laverne and Shirley episode I just talked about. This is a show that typically tune in every Tuesday night to watch to have some good laughs. Well, this is one episode was really not laughing. In fact, there's a lot of crying, a lot of tears, and it seems so real. And again, these are people on the TV screen, but you gotta remember that. Like I tuned into this show every Tuesday night, and then if I wasn't able to, I had a VCR, we tape it, and I'd watch it later. Must see TV, they said back in the day. Um, and man, when I saw this for the first time, I remember like crying like a baby, like, oh no, not Richie. Again, these people on our TV screen. It's just a TV show, but I was that invested in it. Like a lot of people that watched the episode that night. Um, and so when you're seeing an episode like this for the first time, it centers around one of the main characters, and again, it's TV, so seeing it for the first time, you don't really know how it's gonna. And we're praying that Richie's gonna pull through, but it's like, man, what if he doesn't make it, And then there's that relief when, okay, oh, thank God he made it, So let's get into it a little more, okay. Again, I think it was so memorable because of that, very reason. I mean, that this is supposed to be a happy show, um, and we love it too because let's be honest, I mean, we love the episode again because it had a happy ending. Think if they would have killed Richie off, I mean, hey, that I don't think that would have been the way to do it. I mean, and possibly, maybe this was done because, eventually Ron Howard did leave Happy Days to go on um, and launch his directing career. And ever since he left Happy Days, he really hasn't been too much acting. He's mostly concentrated on his directing. So perhaps around this time, he was thinking about leaving the show. I don't know if that's true or not, but just think if they would have killed him off that way. I mean, I think it's much, much better that when Ron Howard finally did decide to exit Happy Days, that they did it where he joined the army and he went off to be in the army for a few years. And they brought him back for a couple more episodes. But um, man, I remember watching this episode and just being in tears and then feeling so bad for the Fonz. And you can imagine the Fonz feeling bad. He's like, oh my God, why did I go along with him getting a motorcycle? I should have known it would be too much for him. But Fonzie kind of, he's having this conversation with God, and basically right then and there, Richie kind of wakes up. He hears Fonzie having this conversation with God, and he's like, "Could be quiet. I'm trying to sleep here." And then again, we love this episode because why? It had a happy ending, and that's, I really think, what is most important. Okay, now in a lot of these episodes, I would say what's interesting about the list I came up with as far as my top five list of most memorable classic TV sitcom show episodes is, with the exception of the Family Ties episode, which was memorable to me because it was a final episode. It was really kind of wrapping the story up of Family Ties, and they did it in a great way. Where Alex basically gets the opportunity to kind of live his dream out of becoming the stockbroker on the New York, stock exchange. So, but all these other episodes are not really so much comedy based because again, I'm a guy who just loves to tune into these classic TV sitcoms for the fact that they make me laugh and have a good time. And when I look back on all my years of watching these classic TV shows, it brings back happy memories. But these particular episodes, for the most part, what really stood out to me, they stood out, I think, because they were so different. Maybe because they did make me laugh so much, but they dealt with much more kind of heartfelt kind of emotion. So let's get into my number two. Okay, my number two on my list of classic TV sitcom episodes that were most memorable to me. The show title was let's see here. That's not it. Okay. But it was an episode of Archie Bunker's Place. Okay. Now, actress Jean Stapleton, who played the role of Edith Bunker, believed that she had taken the Edith character as far as she could. She was ready to kind of at this point move on and move on with her career. She made the decision that she wanted to leave a show, and so Norman Lear, the creator of a show, and the producers are kind of struggling with, how do we get rid of Edith without her and Archie getting divorced or something crazy like that? Because you got to remember, Archie and Edith, we first see like in of course All in the Family, and Archie and Edith, pop culture icons when it comes to their characters. I mean, and again, this episode, and you'll see um, why it was so memorable. Okay, but again, so the original date for this episode premiered was on November 2nd, 1980. Okay, the show title, Archie's Alone. Archie's Alone. What? Okay, well, sadly, this particular episode dealt with the death of Edith Bunker. Oh, the death of Edith Bunker. Oh my God. Again, so the fact that this deals with the death of beloved classic TV character that I grew up watching, because let's be honest, when you think of All the Family, when you think of Archie Bunker, you think of Edith Bunker. I mean, Archie and Edith go together just like hamburger and French fries. I mean, so again, that's what made this such a memorable episode. It was one of the few times in these classic TV shows where they actually dealt with the death of a character. And again, just like with the Happy Days episode, Richie didn't die, but man, when he got in that motorcycle accident, man, I started crying. I started, it broke my heart. I hope he's all right. I hope end of episode he's all right. So again, that's why these type of episodes are so heartfelt. They touch us right here. So let's get into this particular episode a little more. So and she wanted, like I said, to move on with her career and do other things. In the episode, it explains that Edith died from a stroke about a month prior, and it explains that throughout the episode, Archie is dealing with his grief. Again, at this point, this episode is starting. We learn Edith's been dead for like a month. That Archie basically found her. She had an awful stroke, and Archie at this point is dealing with life after Edith. And again, when we think of Archie and Edith, he oftentimes referred to her as a dingbat. But as we find out in this particular episode, some other All in the Family episodes throughout the years, Edith, Archie loved Edith just as much as she loved him. I mean, again, they were like salt and pepper, if you know what I mean. They went together. They were like polar opposites, but I guess Archie and Edith were kind of proof that opposites attract. Edith's level, sweet, grandmotherly type, wouldn't hurt a fly, whereas Archie is loud and crude, and he doesn't think before he speaks. Whereas Edith would never hurt anybody's feelings, not intentionally. Neither would Archie, but she'd oftentimes, like when Archie was getting out of control, kind of rein him in, if you know what I mean. So, and again, we realize at this point, as you're watching the episode, also that since finding Edith dead, Archie's been sleeping on the living room sofa. He never goes in his room. He's except to get dressed or whatever. He doesn't go in there anymore. He hasn't changed the bed or anything. And he goes in the room to get something at one point. And the most kind of poignant moment in this episode is he accidentally comes across one of Edith's slippers that fell behind the bed, and he picks it up and he realizes it's Edith's slipper, and he holds it in his hand and he just breaks down and cries, and he's like, "Oh my God, Edith, why you?" And he starts talking talking out loud to himself. He's like, "I know I always used to joke, Edith, and say that you were going to go before me. I was just kidding. I didn't mean it, Edith. Why did you have to leave me, Edith?" And we realized I mean, I'm tearing up just talking about it. And I remember being a kid and seeing this episode, um, back in 1980 and thinking, wow, oh my God, Edith died. And again, when you're a little kid like that watching on TV, um, you don't realize it's just a TV show. We grew up with these people. I watch it as if Edith is a real person, as if she really died. I'm like, oh my God, So that's why this episode really kind of hit me, and it made it to number two on my list here. Um, and so again, so the most iconic scene is where Archie is kind of talking to himself, and so you know Edith, basically from this point on, this is an episode where they deal with her death and kind of talk about it. Um, and then throughout the rest of Archie Bunker's Place, sporadically, every once in a while, Archie mentions, talks about Edith and what life has been like without her. And we even see in future episodes where Archie goes on his first date in years with another woman. Edith was his wife, his main thing in his life, and so this is the first time he's gone out with another woman. Before he was married to Edith, and so we see Archie go through some of these changes because of his wife's death. Um, and I just remember at the time, like I said, Edith Bunker, was a fictional character, but she was a big part of my life growing up, like I said. And her death just seemed so real. I could feel Archie's pain. Is he breaking down, crying, talking out loud to Edith, like, why did you have to go? I was just kidding. I never meant that. I really wanted you to go. I should have gone first. Um, yeah, so that's the thing about this episode that really kind of touched me. Edith's death just seemed so real. Um, and so again, we talk about some of these episodes. Now, my number one is very much like my number two. Okay, again, because it deals with the death of another iconic TV character. And in case you haven't figured it out yet, this is of course an episode of Good Times. Um, it was a two-part episode. Okay, part one premiered on November 1st, 1976. Part two premiered on November 8th, 1976. Okay. And of course, this episode centers around the death of very beloved TV icon character, the death of James Evans. Okay. James Evans, in case you're asking, who's James Evans? James Evans was the strong, principled father of the Evans family. James Evans was firm and loving. Um, he was morally grounded, actively involved in the life of his children. Um, the episode centers around the Evans family finally is getting out of the Chicago ghetto. The episode opens up with the Evans family. Now, when I'm talking about the Evans family, I'm talking about the mother, Florida, and her daughter, Thelma, and her sons, JJ. JJ stands for, of course, James Evans Jr., named after his father. Okay, and then the youngest son, Michael Evans. You know, and so they're all packing up, getting ready to move. Talking about how they're going down to Mississippi. Now, Dad, James Evans, he is not ever seen in the episode. Okay, and so he's down in Mississippi where the family is moving to, and they're this is a final night. They're going to be in their Chicago apartment. They're packing up and they're getting ready to join Dad in Mississippi. They're having a going away party like the night before. They get everything packed up, and then they're having it like a going away party, say goodbye to all their friends in the Chicago projects and that. And there's dancing, there's music, as you can imagine. Okay. Now, as part one ends, they're having a loud kick-ass party. The music is jamming. Um, And there's one point where the kind of nosy troublemaking superintendent Nathan Bookman, aka Buffalo Butt, as they like to call him, he comes up, hey, you need to lower your music. Some of the neighbors are complaining about all the noise coming up here. They get a little argument with Buffalo Butt, and they start teasing him. And anyways, at one point, at the end of the episode, as they started getting telegrams from people like congratulating them about making the big move to Mississippi, and then there's one telegram that comes from Mississippi, so Florida grabs it from JJ, and she's like, "Oh no, this telegram, this is for me. This came all the way from Mississippi. This must be from your daddy." Well, it was about their daddy, but sadly, it was not good news. Um, Florida opens it up and she reads it out loud, having no idea what she's about to read, mind you guys. Okay. And it's basically, we are sorry to inform you that your husband, James Evans, was killed in an automobile accident. Well, as you can imagine, the party goes from being a joyous thing to shock. Florida kind of, she realized what she just read. And and part one ends with, oh my God. And then the camera turns to JJ, Velma, and Michael, and everybody that's at the party, and they're all realizing what Mama Florida just read. And, oh my God, they realize they're having this big party, getting ready, celebrating the big move now. The big move's not going to happen. Dad's been killed. Oh my God. And again, I remember as a young kid, not even a teenager at that time, watching this, and again, not even realizing, maybe because of my age, it's just a TV show. It's just. But again, these are characters that I grew up with, and when I'm watching it for the first time, as it comes on, I'm thinking, oh my God, JJ and Michael and Velma, their dad died in a car accident, and again, they I think handled it the proper way because they didn't show like a car crashing or anything, outside the window or anything like that. So they learn of his death through a telegram. And then part two is basically when the funeral takes place. And then at that point, the Evans family, their big dream of getting out of the Chicago projects is delayed until the ultimate final episode, which we'll save for another one of these episodes. But it ends with the death of James Evans here, and man, what a blow that was! And basically, um, James Evans was played by, of course, iconic actor John Amos. Okay, and he got basically fired from the show because he was very vocal in his dislike of Jimmy Walker's dynamite catchphrase. He complained constantly to the producers and Norman Lear, the creator of the show, that he wanted the show to deal with more serious issues. And Norman Lear and producers get tired of John Amos's complaining and yelling and screaming, for trying to control the show. They thought he should just show up and read his lines. But I've seen John Amos over years. He recently died too last year, but I've seen before he died, he talked about this a couple times in some interviews where he said, "Yeah, I was much more I was much more temperamental back in those days." And he says, "It taught me that if you get real loud and temperamental, that sometimes there are consequences to be paid." And he goes, "I kind of learned my lesson, not to be so vocal about things." So again, things happen for a reason. But man, this is my number one because I remember, just like when I watched the episode that dealt with the death of Edith Bunker. Oh no, their dad's dead. Oh man, that's sad. And again, typically you tune into this show to laugh, and this episode was just so sad. And I don't know, you felt like somebody you knew died, if you know what I mean, even though you really didn't. because that was somebody who was on that TV show, um, from the get-go, and then killing off James Evans. It became I still watch Good Times till the final episode, but you know what? It became a very different show, and they wrote different types of stories because of the death of James Evans. So this has been a real fun kind of introspective episode to do because, again, like I said, these are dealing with classic TV sitcom episodes, and with the exception of a Family Ties episode, these other episodes I talked to you about much more kind of heartfelt and emotional roller coaster that they took me on. But man, this was a fun episode. So thanks for tuning in to episode 16 of JRock's Pop Culture Revolution. This is my top 5 list of classic TV sitcom most memorable episodes. I'm your host, Jason J. Rock Houston. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon. And next time we do episode 17, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite classic films of all time from 1984. We're going to go into the 80s and talk about Beverly Hills Cop, starring Eddie Murphy. So won't that be fun? I think it's going to be real fun. Talk to you guys later. Bye for now.